Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Today is Tuesday, June 8th, 2021. And I now call to order the 2076 regular meeting of the City of College Place City Council. Will the clerk please take roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Bobbitt,
Present.
Councilmember Cleveland,
Present.
Councilmember Peterson,
Present.
Councilmember Selby,
Present.
Councilmember Sherman,
Present.
and Councilmember Boyle.
Present.
Councilmember Nyhagen has requested to be excused tonight. We also have City Attorney Ree Colwell, City Administrator Mike Rizzatello, Finance Director Brian Carlton, Community Development Director John Rickard, HR Manager Sean Doring, and City Clerk Lisa Neisel. We do have a quorum. We're ready to go.
Excellent. Thank you. Now, will you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. It's now time for the public comment. Did anyone submit a comment or arrange to speak, Lisa?
They did not.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the consent agenda, which includes approving the agenda for today, June 8th, 2021. Approve the council minutes from May 25th, 2021. Approve council minutes from June 1st, 2021's workshop. Approve the Employee Wellness and Recognition Program and excuse the absence of Council Member Nyhagen. Are there any items that anybody would like to have removed from the consent agenda at this time? All right, if not, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a
Councilmember
second?
Selby. Councilmember Selby.
Second.
Great, thank you. There's a first and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed?
Aye.
Is your aye for opposing or for approving? Jerry, approving? Okay, thank you. It's for approving. All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. We have no presentations tonight, so we're going to go straight to the public hearings. And we have one scheduled tonight on the 2022 to 2027 Transportation Improvement Plan. And Mr. Rizzatello is going to present on that.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to try not to belabor this as this went through with City Council workshop presentation, but Transportation Improvement Plan, think about it as a wish list for project, street and transportation projects to get funded at the state or the federal level. It has to be realistic. You can't just throw the whole kitchen sink at it. But you have to essentially assemble a semblance of a transportation plan for if the stars align in the next 6 years, 10 years, and long-term 10 to 20 years. What is it that you want to fund from a transportation level? And then within that, there's various buckets. So you have your traditional reconstruction type money, which would be full corridor reconstruction. You see that in front of you. So the key upcoming projects are our annual, the sidewalk, the projects that we're trying to do with CDBG, and happy to report that finally the 12th and the Bade Street sidewalks are breaking ground this week. So that's awesome. The chip seal, putting some signage and minor improvements as CMIRA as Goodwill comes in. The 4 Bikes project, so extending the cycle track at College and putting in pedestrian street lamps. 2022, We think likely it'll deal with putting signals near Southside Development near the high school as that transpires. Also, the post office crossing, dealing with that in a manner. Southeast Birch 4th to 6th, that road is definitely falling apart. So getting that into acceptable condition. Majanier Road, we ended up getting some Metropolitan Planning Organization grant money to cover the engineering and right-of-way acquisition. But then as we get into engineering later this year, going next year, we plan to be aggressively pursuing the grant money and make construction occur. Southeast 9th Street reconstruction, that has been a project near and dear to me to get a semblance of a road put in there. And thank you, Councilmember Selby, for assisting with the student at the university to do some engineering plans for that so we could position it for money. Then 2023 goes into the projects around Southeast 12th Street, the western leg of that between Larch and College to essentially resurface it, fix the utilities underneath it, put in some street lighting. 2024 is basically repeating what we did on Southeast 10th, except now on Southwest 10th, to deal with stormwater and so forth and make that more of an acceptable road. 2025 deals with essentially reconstructing Southeast 12th between Larch and Myra. I will say that the various Southeast 12th projects you see before you, there is a chance that they could be combined as they are on our federal infrastructure prioritization list to the federal government. So if that bill ends up getting approved on the federal level, that was submitted as a singular project. So if we do get those funds, there is a chance of Southwest 12th going all at once. 2025 for Whitman Drive and Larch, that follows the recommendation in that traffic study. It was done about 3 years ago to put in a traffic signal over there. And then 2026, a lot of this we feel will be developer driven, but actually putting in a semblance of an urbanized road on the north half of Whitman. Hayden Homes constructed the south half from Academy Way over Martin Airfield. North half is still from when the county owned it. So making that more of like a whole road. The 10-year plan, we just think those are projects that could go in the next 10 years. A lot of that are local roadways, so that will just due to the health and viability of our current expense and street funds, a lot of that. But Myra Road and Garrison Village Way, that while that intersection is in City of Walla Walla, that is the primary access to a key College Place development, so we'll be partnering with them to figure out a solution on that. Long term is 10 to 20 years, and you'll see some local projects, some aspirational ones, such as Peppers Bridge is in the city right now. One would hope within 20 years it will be. And then same thing with Punch and Southwest 4th through to the Homestead development because traffic patterns are showing that it's needed. Going to page 3, chip seal program, that's essentially where we put the oil and chip coating on top of the streets. It adds about 10 years of life. You'll see the prioritization in the upcoming years. So next year, basically dealing with the subdivisions across State Route 125. 2023 is dealing with the southwest neighborhood to west of College Avenue. 2024 would be primarily dealing with the southern end of Larch, those neighborhoods, so Autumn Meadows, Country Estates, Sherburne in the other area. 2025 is Highland Park, and then 2026 and 2027 gets to the northeast end of town. Page 4 deals with our sidewalk program. Now, right now, a lot of this is grant-based because we don't really have a defined funding source for sidewalks, but utilizing our census block group argument, we have been successful getting community development block grants, but the only area it qualifies is that key area bounded by Rose Street, Sunny Drive, Birch, and then the old railroad right-of-way, Davis, and Academy Way on the west side. So 2022 Southwest 6th and 8th Street, they have dovetails with that grant application you all approved a couple meetings ago. 2023 Southwest 2nd in Northwest B Street, 2020, and then Northeast Ash. 2024 is Southeast 8th. As well as Southeast Birch. Birch will be a little more of a challenge because that straddles two census block groups. The one qualifies, the other one does not. And state CDBG has had heartburn over streets that are divided between two census block groups where one qualifies and one does not. So we'll have to see. And then 2025, 2027 deals will allow roads that either straddle the low income census block groups or are not in it, where we'll have to get creative with funding. And then page 5 deals with the block resurfacing, figuring out what streets need to be funded. That what's helped with that is when we had that iWork truck drive around grading the pavement condition of said streets. So a lot of that came right from the report. And we formalized that program because since at least I've worked here, it's basically shown that every year there ends up being one block of road or so. It's in such horrid shape that we want to resurface it. So therefore, it makes sense that we formalize that into a semblance of a program. And that's been funded by our REIT funds. So that is a synopsis of the general plan. This has been recommended for approval by the Utility and Transportation Advisory Commission. And then it also went before the Economic Development Commission last night, and they recommended it to council as well.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions or comments? No. Okay, at this time, I will open the public hearing. Clerk, did anyone submit to make a comment or to speak?
No, they did not.
Okay. Perfect. Is there any additional discussion? All right, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So move. Peterson?
Great, thank you. Is there a second?
Second,
Foil.
Gary.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The hearing is closed. Thank you. We're going to move on to action items. And the first action item is a 2022 to 2027 Transportation Improvement Plan by Mr. Rizzatello.
Okay, thank you. I gave the presentation. I'm sure you all don't want to hear that again. So this is basically the wish list. The implementation piece will be when you all approve the capital facility plan at the end of the year. And if y'all approve this, I just got to scramble and enter all of this into the STP program that the state has because it's due this month. So that's all.
All right, so let's go through council members for any questions or comments. And we'll start with Mr. Bobbitt.
I was ready to make a motion.
All right, then let's move on and then I'll come back to you. Mr. Cleveland,
No questions?
Mr. Peterson,
No questions.
Ms. Selby,
No questions.
Ms. Sherman,
No questions. Mike, could you just go over that list again? I'm just kidding.
and Ms. Boyle.
No questions.
All right, Mr. Bobbitt, do you have your hand raised?
Well, I think, Mike, you did a good job. I think the workshop covered it, and I'm ready to make a motion for resolution number 21-029, which adapts the 2022 to 2027 Transportation Improvement Plan for the city of College Place.
Second, Councilmember Selby.
Great. We have a first and a second. Any additional discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you. Next item is a resolution of support for grants to construct publicly owned dark fiber broadband by Mr. Rizzatello.
Hey, thank you. This we went over at the last workshop of City Council, but basically a major activity that's funded not only with the American Rescue Plan funds, but by several state and federal agencies as of late, including FCC, the Economic Development Administration, and the state level, Public Works Trust Fund, their broadband office, and then Community Economic Revitalization Board. Ton of money is flowing in this direction. One of the things that enables us to go after said funding is a feasibility study, which the port completed, which did show that there are pockets of not only this city, but also Walla Walla, and in general, the entire county that either are not served properly or are underserved with internet. And the general concept here is that it basically builds upon what we were already starting to dabble in when we reconstruct roadways, except this is a much more pronounced level. But basically we would go after funds, install, if we get all this money, dark fiber lines, which means that they aren't being utilized yet. And they'd be all over town, so basically connecting everyone's homes and things to fast internet, and then the fiber would be lit essentially when it was leased to the private sector. Typically, when activities such as this are done, you get a lot more providers serving the local service area, since they aren't having to take the risk on all of the capital installation. And then you also see lower monthly costs on said internet because there is more competition and there's more plentiful bandwidth. So I know City of Walla Walla, the county, the school districts, the university, everyone seems to be on board on cooperating with this. As far as the management of this, if it gets built, naturally a recommendation would be to go through Petrichor, which is a subsidiary of Port of the Whitman County, since they already do the management and leasing of the public lines up there, so they actually know what they're doing. Our local utility commission, the youth commission, and economic development commission, they all recommended to go forth on this and go full steam ahead in pursuing the grant funds. And in my experience, most of these grant funds don't become available unless you have a major issue occur, such as like a pandemic or the recession. So the only other time I've seen money at this level pop up was like when we went through the 2008 and 9 recession. So you get narrow windows to go after this money. So this resolution basically indicates your support to pursue grant funds at both state and federal level for this.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Okay, so we're going to go through council members for questions or comments. Mr. Bobbitt.
A couple questions. First one, I noticed in the motion, it authorizes and supports pursuit of grant fund, but who does it authorize? Is this our mayor and our city administrator, or both? Or?
Yeah, well, yeah, because on all these grant applications, it's always, especially federal level, is combination of mayor and city administrator signing and pursuing said documents.
Okay, and also any further discussions with the Port of Walla Walla regarding the Rose Street College Avenue conduit?
So that would basically, the further discussion with them is that would be further incorporated into the general region-wide system, because we're trying to take a regional approach to this. And basically there would be a governing body with everyone. Petrichor would manage it if we're successful doing that, and monies received into this would essentially be secured and basically go into further investing in the system. And if we ever get past the point of having to do further improvements to this broadband system, then discussions could be had as to dividends or other sorts to the member agencies, but that'd be very preliminary at this point in time because this sort of project is definitely an expansive one.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
To Cleveland.
So this is a motion to pursue grant funds. If we got granted those funds and we were given money to purchase and install dark fiber, that would go into our empty conduits, but presumably it would also kind of, would be installing fiber lines on utility poles as well to kind of bridge everything together, or would we be installing new conduit to in places to connect everything?
Typically, especially with the FCC grant, even though it does cost more, FCC grants and other sources will cover it, it would be installing more conduits, except actually putting fiber in the said conduits. I think the only way we would ever entertain going overhead, which I don't see happening, would be let's say if we were significantly short on funds, but with the amount of money that's going through all of these avenues, and from personal experience, when I helped do 2 of these in Illinois, I just don't see that happening. So, I mean, the idea would be to position this where we install the dark fiber, but it's underground, so we have one standard protocol for dealing with the system.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Peterson.
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Selby.
I think this is great. And I completely agree with Mike that it's kind of rare that these kind of funds come around. And so I think we absolutely should take advantage of them. But I couldn't find anything on approximately how much money we're talking. Did I miss it or?
Well, as far as the FCC, as far as the general grant funds go, I mean, the feds in the various buckets of money are given like billions of dollars. As far as what it would cost for the city in general, the general estimate Petrichor has given us is to do a citywide expanse would be between $3.5 and $4 million. The hypothetical would be with FCC bucket of money, because we're viewed as impoverished since our city is 90% opportunity zone. We would need to provide a 10% match, which I've talked to our partner agencies, and I believe we can easily come up with the 10%.
Thank you. I did miss that. Yeah, I think it's a bargain for as much as we've talked about wanting to maintain jobs or develop jobs in the city. This is a key part. So thank you for being on top of this.
Yep.
Councilmember Sherman.
No questions, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Boyle.
No questions, thanks.
All right. There's no other discussion. Do we have a motion? Oh, Councilmember.
I'll motion to approve resolution number 21-030, which authorizes and supports pursuit of grant funds for the construction of a publicly owned dark fiber broadband network.
Great. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Boyle.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you, Mike. Okay, next item is an agreement with Anderson Perry for engineering design services for Lion Park improvements, and Mr. Rickard will present on that.
Good evening. Yes, so this will get us underway for preliminary design work for the Lions Park Improvement Project, which would include the playground, the splash pad, all the amenities that we've seen numerous times for this exciting project. We currently have an existing contract with Anderson Perry that got us going. We entered into that earlier this year. That got us our topo survey of the park and also some preliminary design work on renovating the existing restrooms. There will be a third contract later this year once we determine what the environmental review process is going to be. One of our grants, there are federal dollars involved, so we haven't got an answer yet from RCO on whether or not we'll have to go through the NEPA process for that grant. So we're holding off on that scope of work. Also in that third round or that third contract would include final engineering, environmental permitting, which I just mentioned, but also bidding and award services and contract management. So we're doing pretty well. We have roughly 2.5 secured so far for this project, and with another 800,000 unsecured, but we have some pending grants that we think will take care of that. So anyhow, any questions?
Let's go for questions or comments. And Councilmember Bobbitt?
None at this time. Thank you, John.
Okay. Councilmember Cleveland?
No questions?
Councilmember Peterson?
No questions.
Councilmember, sorry. Sorry, I had to spell this. Okay, Councilmember Selby?
No questions. Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted.
Sorry, first I fumbled it. Councilmember Sherman?
No questions.
Okay, and Councilmember Boyle?
No questions.
All right, if there's no other discussion, do we have a motion for this resolution? Or for this agreement, excuse me.
I'll make a
Councilmember-
motion to approve the agreement with Anderson Perry for parliamentary design engineering services for the City of College Place's Lions Park Improvement Project for an amount not to exceed $70,000.
I'll second.
Great. Any additional discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Right.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you. Moving on, the next item is a Pacific Power Foundation grant resolution of support, and Mr. Rizzatello will present on this as well.
Hey, thank you. So next two, this item and the next item are pretty well tied together, but first I'll go over this one. So artist Jeffrey Hill, he's done several of the sculptures in downtown Walla Walla. He approached the city about a concept for somewhere within College Place of the Gatherer, and you'll see what basically the representation, what it looks like, installation, and then the price dollar figure. So I mean, as you know, we don't have money lying around for public art. So I mean, to do this, it really requires pursuit of grant funds. There are 2 buckets of money that are going to become available in the next month or 2 here. This is the first one. So Pacific Power Foundation, they have themed buckets of money where they put out a call for projects once a quarter, and the bucket of money that's basically going to be available coming up in the next couple of weeks is actually themed for like public art type projects. So that is what this is for pretty much, to pursue a Pacific Power Foundation grant and just indicate your support of it, to pursue funding, partial funding of this Gatherer statue. Pacific Power Foundation grant would be for $10,000. You'll see that the cost for the total statue and installation would be around the said $39,000. I believe we could pair this with another grant that will be coming up next to help fund it, and basically go from there. As you all may or may not remember, when we're dealing with the public art paradigm, that does go before our Park Arbor and Recreation Board initially to make sure that they have a recommendation for or against it. They recommended for pursuit of grants to fund this at their May 28th meeting, and that's what's before you.
Mike, I just wanted to add that I got an email, Blue Mountain Community Foundation, somebody sent that, asked them to direct $5,000 of their money over to this statue should the city pass, should we proceed with it. They want, I guess it's somebody from College Place, but they wanted some of that money to contribute to this as well. Just a comment. Okay, so let's go through council members for questions or comments. Mr. Bobbitt?
I'm reading in some of the documentation here. It'll be located somewhere in College Place. Any idea?
There's a couple of places that have been mentioned, either somewhere on College Avenue, like near City Hall, for example. Another interesting idea that was actually mentioned by Park Board, which I find intriguing, would actually be that parklet that they're developing off of 12th Street, to actually put it in the parklet, which as a focal point in the parklet would actually be pretty cool. So I definitely could see that idea well. So those are some of the ideas that are percolating right now on the Park Board level.
Because you think that something like that you want people to see, and it seems like our College Avenue would be with our widened sidewalks would be a nice place to locate, but I can't quite picture where.
We have the space near City Hall. So somewhere in front of City Hall is a good example for it. And then there are other key flared out pieces of right of way near key intersections where you could potentially put it as well. Because some of our right of way does flare out a little bit past the sidewalk when you get near the Whitman intersection, for example. And then there's some flared out areas near 8th as well, and even 12th. So there are other locations along College Avenue that could work for this as well.
Mike, if you don't mind, since I presented that to the PAR board, the idea behind the parklet on 12th Street was that, given the nature and the theme of the sculpture, having the Blue Mountains as a backdrop to it was kind of the idea of why that might be a good location. Just wanted to add that perspective.
Nice.
I think that's kind of nice. It just seems kind of out of the way. It would be neat there, and I do like that idea of the Blue Mountains as a backdrop.
It could increase it, make it more of a destination area too, for people to come see that piece of art.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people walk on the other side where the sidewalk is, though.
Yeah, that might change.
Councilmember Cleveland?
Yeah, one question. Is there any kind of formalized procedure for folks who want to create public art for the Steve College Place to apply, or any kind of selection process that we have?
Well, we do have our public art code, which is 12.2810, which Lisa highlighted. and basically initial recommendations or calls for projects or things like that actually initially go through the Park Arbor and Recreation Board. So they act as our initial eyes and ears for the public art. In fact, the traffic boxes that initially went through them as well. This was just a case where Mr. Hill has approached us, and I know on the advisory board level, there seems to be an agreement where, at least when you compare us to Wawa or even Waitsburg, for example, we don't have the level of like art that those places do, and that's why it seemed like something to pursue.
Yeah, we're a little bit Spartan. Thanks.
I love the idea of public art. Councilmember Peterson.
No questions.
Okay. Councilmember Selby.
I really like the idea of public art. In fact, in my engineering in a global context class, we spent quite a while on the importance of art for the flourishing of humans. So I absolutely support this. I had thought of the parklet as well. And I think it's going to be large enough that, you know, I would want to be on the other side of the street, I think, to admire it the best.
Thank you. Councilmember Sherman.
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, if there's no additional comments or questions, is there a motion? Councilmember Peterson.
Yes, I'd move to adopt resolution number 21-031, which indicates supports to pursue a Pacific Power Foundation grant to obtain the Gather statue by artist sculptor Jeffrey Hill.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Councilmember Selby.
Wonderful. Any other discussion? All right, let's vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you very much. Next item is the NEA Our Town grant application for placemaking initiative resolution of support. And Mr. Rizzatello is going to present on that as well.
Okay, thank you. So the general concept here, this is like part 2 to funding the Gather statue plus funding something else. National Endowment for the Arts is basically, it's affiliated with the federal government, and they essentially provide grants for placemaking activities. So in past years, they actually gave a small increment of money for some of our welcome signs and some of the wayfinding signage. So, so stuff where it attracts people or directs people or adds to arts and culture of a community, they'll fund. The grants are at a 50-50 level. They did not pursue, they didn't have the grants offered in the past year because of the pandemic. But it is available today. And it'll be due basically late June, early July. So the concept is that we would fund, this would help fund the other end of the Gather statue. But then we, the mayor and I have also been approached by a veterans group. One of our residents, Neil Jacobson and his wife, they've approached the park board, mayor and myself, about installing a Korean War monument over at Veterans Park and having essentially a memorial over there, given the fact it is Veterans Park and it would be for Korean War. So what this concept would do is basically this grant proposal would help fund the Gather statue, the Korean War memorial, and then a placeholder for art education to partner with Jeffrey Hill and some of the other artists having to do with the traffic box art. what we are using as a match on this, because again, 50-50 match, is the Gather statue, the Pacific Power Foundation, one that y'all approved, Korean War Memorial. Justin talks, I believe 10,000 could potentially come from the VFW group or others. So I don't think that that is something that is that outlandish. The other one, since we're couching it, is a placemaking projects. I'm trying to keep it general, so we could count on some of our other placemaking activities as the match is the Traffic Box Art Wrap Project Part 2, because we do have the call for artists out now, and P1FCU is funding that. So between the cost that they're paying and soliciting the art, getting there done, producing the wraps, and doing all that, that's what it amounts to. Blue Zones, we can count that as a match because we've been working with them. They have a booth at our farmers market. Mayor and I were leading a walkability assessment of the area next week with them. So there's a lot of activities that we work on with them that can count as a match. And then also the staff and advisory committee time match valued at $3,400. So what that gets the number up to is we're with between the matches and the money, you have 79,000 on that match side, and we're requesting 79,000 from National Endowment for the Arts. So I'm asking for a resolution of support, and my plan is I'm going to submit both of those grants if you all approve of this one as well before I go on vacation later this month. So that is what is before you.
All right, thank you, Mike. Let's go for questions or comments, and we'll start with Councilmember Bobbitt.
No questions. Thank you, Mike.
Councilmember Cleveland,
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yeah, I fully support this. You know, it was interesting. I know maybe some of you saw the CBS Sunday Morning Show had the recap of the Gold Star memorials around the United States, and it was very proud that our city was involved in that memorial. And I think at the time, I know there were discussions about whether to get involved or not, but I think this is always something positive for the community, and it's something that years later you look back on and you're very proud of. So yes, thank you.
Excellent. Councilmember Selby.
I really appreciate this, and we've all been talking about how we have so little public art. I'm wondering if we could actually request the committee to maybe put together some ideas for how we could change that. And it seems like we kind of, most of the time you have to have the ideas first and then you can go get the grants. So I think that would be, I think it would be great for us to actually get out ahead of it a little bit. Because I kind of like the idea that some cities have done where at every sort of major entrance to the city, they have some type of public art, which kind of, you know, shows people where exactly College Place is, as opposed to, you know, where the edges of it are. Anyway, I like this.
Great, completely agree. Okay, Councilmember Sherman.
I like it too. And as a person that uses roadsideamerica.com to plan my road trips and look for crazy things, I'm of course not opposed to something wacky, not crazy, but fun. But no, I don't have any questions. Thanks, Mike.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions. I love it.
Excellent. Makes me happy. This is near and dear to my heart as well. All right. So if there's no further questions or discussions, do we have a motion on this resolution?
Councilmember Selby, I would like to move to approve resolution number 21-032 in support of National Endowments for the Arts, NEA, Our Town application for College Place placemaking initiative.
Thank you. We have a second.
Second, Councilmember Boyle.
Great, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Okay, next item is the membership agreement with ShareSource, and Mike is up again.
Yeah. This is just an agreement to join a purchasing co-op. We're members of several, and it's good to be members of a variety of them. Because sometimes you're able to secure lower pricing and items such as vehicles or just general supplies. And a lot of the costs vary between the co-ops. And the nice part about the co-ops is they already do the bidding for you. So as long as you're in essentially a vested co-op and you see the price, you can opt to essentially piggyback on that contract. So we are members of National Joint Powers Alliance, Sourcewell, and King County Directors Association. And we occasionally buy things from Houston, Galveston Area Council. This would essentially just add another to our purchasing co-op arsenal. And this is free to join. It's just another option for procurement.
Great, thank you. Let's go through council members for questions. Councilmember Bobbitt.
I really have no questions. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Councilmember Cleveland.
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson.
No questions. Thanks, Mike.
Member Selby.
No questions.
Councilmember Sherman.
No questions.
And Councilmember Boyle.
No questions.
All right, great. If there's no additional comments or questions, do we have a motion?
This is Council Member Jerry. I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 21-033, which permits the city administrator to sign the membership agreement with Premier ShareSource.
Thank you. Do we have a second on this motion?
Second,
Second.
Councilmember Selby.
All right, great, thank you. Any other discussion? Right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. The next item is a Southwest Sewer Revenue Bond Ordinance, and Mr. Carlton's going to present on that.
Thank you, Mayor. This is another item in relation to the Southwest Sewer project. As part of the funding package for that project, we have a loan with USDA, which is $2.838 million. And in order for us to utilize that funds, USDA requires us to do interim financing, and we chose Washington Federal through council approval. And via that arrangement, we are required to have a revenue bond to support the $2.838 million. If you recall, that is really interim financing. We have, at the end of the project, that interim financing will be converted to a long-term note with USDA. And this revenue bond also supports that note. We're going to need there's closing on this bond is the 17th of June, and we're expecting we'll have to draw on that interim financing probably near the end of June, middle of July. We're still into, as part of that big funding package, we're still into the Department of Ecology loan, and it was for $1.5 million, and we've used up about 700,000 of it. So I'm anticipating the pay estimate we currently have to Apollo is about 511,000, which we can support through the Department of Ecology loan. But this ordinance approves us to allow our bond counsel to prepare the financing through Washington Federal.
Right.
Is there any questions?
Start with Councilmember Bobbit. Any questions?
We're still processing, but no questions right now.
Okay, Mr. Cleveland,
No questions. Thank you.
Mr. Peterson,
No questions.
Ms. Selby,
No questions.
Ms. Sherman,
No questions.
Ms. Boyle.
No questions, thanks.
Okay. Gary, they didn't give you much time to ponder anymore. Did you come up with any questions or comments?
Not yet.
Okay,
Trying to understand all this.
all right. So if there's no further discussion, is there a motion on this
Yeah.
ordinance?
Councilmember Selby, I move to approve ordinance number 21-009 for the issuance of a sewer revenue bond in the amount of $2,838,000 for interim financing on the Southwest Sewer Project.
It's
I'll
it's
second.
two-
1 second.
it's 2.8 million.
Oh, sorry. I was so busy trying to say if that was a 2 rather than a 3. Yeah. Okay, $2,838,000.
Second with the Councilmember Cleveland with her correction.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Gave the finance director a heart palpitation there for a moment.
I'm like, what did I put down?
Well, you can always vote me down.
283,000 wouldn't quite cover.
Oh, I should have known that, but I was just,
No, we're giving you a bad time.
You gotta make it work, Brian.
To make it work, yeah.
an interim. That would last for a few days.
Yeah.
Well,
Few
Department of
hours.
Ecology would give us all the money, so it's available.
All
But it
right,
costs a lot more.
to let Brian off the hook, all those in favor say aye.
Um,
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed.
Thank you.
Go, Brian. All right, next is administrative reports, and we have one tonight on the strategic plan update, and Mr. Rizzatello will present that one.
Okay, thank you. So took the first stab at editing the plan, and it takes into account several things. Takes into account a meeting we had between Lawson Knight, who helped us work on the other plans with city staff, as well as input from the citizen community via that survey that was discussed at the previous workshop. So if you go to the edited document, I just marked out essentially changes and then erased some of the years on it, because there's already 3 years that passed in this thing. So those can be removed. And also a summary section. This is a short enough document, really, where you only regurgitate the same thing. That's just essentially wasting paper. So what you'll see on the table of contents page is just as far as the core tenets and themes of this plan. The one proposal is how optimal operations were at the end of the core tenets, moving at first. Main reason being is that, especially through staff meeting, it's just we need to keep in mind as we're working on these various projects, initiatives, things of that sort. It takes bodies, it takes staff. So just as things continue to progress in town, we need to make sure of that, just so we keep our staffing levels firmed up, and that if new activities or things are planned, that we're always looking at that. Otherwise, it can stretch out staff too thin. So moving that to the symbolic number 1 theme was key. The values, the vision. As you saw in the survey, people, residents in town were definitely okay with what they saw. I mean, the survey indicated well over 92%, which for a survey that goes out to the public is very good. As you get to essentially page 6, which is resource development, you will see one of the marks there was just the county-wide planning policies, because back when this was initially authored, we were looking at it from purely the urban growth standpoint, but through the urban growth debacle that occurred the last time, it definitely is apparent that the main issue at the forefront here is the fact that we're being governed under a countywide planning policy from the early 90s, and things change. And because of those planning policies, it basically has frozen the percentage of population each of the cities can be within the county is the same percentage it was back in the early 90s. And that just makes no sense because your infrastructure, all core stuff you need for development are out in the urban areas. So that's driving a lot of the discombobulation, and that needs to definitely be altered, and we need to work toward those regards. Page 7 gets in just timeline and outcomes. A lot of the things that have changed in that area is just talking about the housing needs assessment, also moving down a year or two, just the lodging operator project, because we were close to landing a hotel. The pandemic, pretty much everywhere across the country in the lodging front has experienced delays. I believe we will be successful getting a lodging facility. It's just that it definitely threw a wrench in getting it sooner. You'll also see language in here pertaining to Martin Airfield, the land trust, which is a way for us to more equitably develop affordable housing. And there'll be a presentation before this council by the Land Trust Board, I would expect around August or September, where you'll learn more about that. And then there's language about tax increment financing, which is a new economic development tool. They'll be coming before you as soon as the state gets done with their rulemaking, because right now that's a nebulous thing as they have not made their rules for that project yet. So you can see essentially all the items called out through 2026. Going page 8 to page 9, cooperation and connection. Just the our coordination of local media outlets. That's been a combination between myself and then the departmental public information officers. Same with the school events, promoting them to community. That's those departmental social media managers. Item 4, which is commissions, just updating it to reflect truly what's out there. Since this initial plan was written, the utility board, the diversity board, and youth commission are newer initiatives. And then 6, fostering interlocal partnerships. This is just so we have an all-encompassing list of truly where our partnerships are. So police training, for example, a lot of the agencies all cooperate on that regional shooting range we now have out at the treatment plant. Fire training, good example is how we're all collaborating on that regional fire training tower. Economic development, when it is held before COVID, and hopefully it'll be held again as we get past COVID, like International Council of Shopping Centers, as a region, marketing our region for business. Broadband, what we just went over, that's being tackled from a regional concept. And then housing, the land trust, and then even what like Blue Mountain Action Council and the Housing Authority does, that's regionalism right there. So as you go into timeline and outcomes, you'll see that essentially that language just carries the day on that. For 2021, one of the items that the county's working on, and they're working through our legislative delegation on the federal level, is moving emergency management. That's something big that's happening, because with emergency management right now, they're in a very old office right next to Mill Creek and across from the Marcus Whitman Hotel, which probably isn't the best location to be in should we have a flood or an earthquake where you have the highest rise structure right there. So we're working with them on that, and then we're also working with like Sunbridge and the school district on joint youth recreation program. And so you'll see that all of that is encapsulated in that time frame. Page 12, infrastructure investment. So just trying to capture that we're working to fully attain a fully funded utility, but we're doing it through a combination of like the utility rates and the grants, because we're trying to get the grants so we don't have to raise rates to insane amounts. So just trying to, because before it was, oh, we're striving to get the fully funded utility. Well, how you're able to do that is through that innovative combination of rates and grants. And then just as we get into item 2, when goals and objectives, just working on a conservation program, because as we know, we have a declining aquifer, exploring consolidation and irrigation districts as it makes sense. And then also monitoring our aquifer levels. Number 3, the wastewater utility, dealing with the wastewater treatment plant, especially with the amount of money that project's going to cost. It definitely needs to be called out as such. The good news there is, as the infrastructure bill passes, Representative McMorris Rogers has published a list of projects that she is sponsoring for that earmark bill. And the wastewater treatment plant was listed as number 3 on that list. So I think we stood in a good place to get federal money. Then number 7, just continuing to put language about the broadband and the Wi-Fi. And then number 8, because it was mentioned a couple times in the citizen survey, just working on establishing some semblance of a recycling program. But again, it has to make sense, and nothing's going to look like it did because the price point of what has happened overseas has changed. And then as you get into outcomes, you'll see a lot of the linear feet of improvements for various type of infrastructure is reported, and then you'll see a time frame for at least trying to deal with the nebulous subject of recycling. Page 15 goes planning for prosperity. A lot of that language is us making sure our comprehensive plan is up to snuff. And that didn't really require much evidence, because a lot of that's essentially governed by what's in the Growth Management Act. Going to page 17, optimal operations. This is the most important one, because again, to cover those other themed areas, you have to have the staff and the resources deployed and the technology employed to do it appropriately. So you'll see just language having to do with making sure we have it to state recognized human resource levels for the key areas that we're striving to achieve that. And then also for 1C, just recognizing that, again, planning and buildings now in community development department. Historically, it was listed as engineering needs to be adequately staffed. It really needs to be public works, because that's all one and the same. Also adding that language so that way finance, clerk, and HR are not left out, because again, they're all important functions for the city. And then beyond item 4, which is the GISs used as a comparative advantage, we also felt adding language about technology is employed when increasing staff efficiency and whereas it makes sense. So that's a key thing right there. And then as far as outlining and outcomes, nothing has really changed within there, because again, it was just changing some of the language within those key tenets. And then summary, as you've seen with the key areas, I mean, this is short enough where not everything has to be regurgitated over a number of pages again and again. So that is the draft of the document. So I'll take questions, but please look over it. If you have edits or thoughts or comments, please let me know as we work through this. Because again, as we work through this, even though we do citizen surveys every year before we launch in a budget, we do try to take a little bit of a deeper dive into the strategic plan every other year. Except I would say historically, we've done it at a weirder time frame where it didn't really directly dive in the budget, and it really should, because if you're working the strategic plan right, I mean, really that's how that's implementation of your budget and priorities of what you're funding. So the idea is to get the amended one in place prior to us doing the deep dive into budgetary discussions for fiscal year 2022.
Right, thank you, Mike. Let's go for questions or comments. Councilmember Bobbitt.
No questions. Really appreciate what you presented here tonight, Mike. Thank you.
Thanks.
A lot of work. Councilmember Cleveland.
No questions at this time.
Councilmember Peterson.
No questions. That looks like a, yeah, that looks like a really good document. That's going to be something that, yeah, a point of going through and looking at it and reviewing it. Yes.
All right, Councilmember Selby.
I will look it over in more detail. The one comment that I have right now is I've been trying to reach out to people that I know about stuff that's going on in the city. And I asked them, you know, did you know about this? And if you did, how did you hear about it? And it seems like the only way people are getting information is word of mouth. So there must be like 5 people in the city that keep track of what's going on and tell people. Oh. So, and I keep asking them, you know, how could we reach out to you? And they're like, I don't know. So, so I think that's an area that we need to think about, you know, maybe we need to, you know, hire 10 people to just go talk to people. I don't know. So anyway, that's kind of my thought on what we need to do strategically. I really like what you've done here.
Thanks.
Councilmember Sherman.
No questions. Thanks, Mike. Looks great.
Thanks.
And Councilmember Boyle.
No questions. Great job, Mike.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. Okay, let's moving on. There are no information reports in the packet and we have no executive session tonight. So is there any other business for the good of the order?
Yeah, Mayor, this is Councilmember Peterson. I just may tie a little bit into Councilmember Selby's comment there, but on a different subject matter, perhaps also, I would like to make a request that for the council members and others, is it possible to put together a short communication weekly or bi-weekly that just highlights maybe the 1 or 3 things that are happening in the city that a council member should be aware of? I fully understand that there are newsletters that I'm probably not reading. They're probably in emails, whatever. But and I don't want to create another level of communication, but even a short email. I think what has kind of struck home with me, the dedication out on Whitman, and even I'll go as far as even the farmers market. Sometimes I'm tired, I get home, I go, oh yeah, it would be nice to, and I'm sure we can fine tune this over time, but I think it's especially important that the council members look. It's important the council members are engaged going forward here, the balance of this year too, and all of us as far as showing up to these events and being aware of it. Sometimes I find that things are happening and and so I've brought this up a couple times over the last few years, but we don't need to make a decision now, Mike and then Mayor. But it would be nice to something 3 or 4. There may be weeks where there's nothing, but there's other weeks where there's maybe 3 or 4 things where something, a parade, some sort of dedication, farmers market, something like that. I should be aware of those, and I apologize for that. But there are times when those things just slip by, and I know, but it would be nice to have something like that. And I'd even go as far as if there's some new construction or something, perhaps something going on where people will come to the council member and say, what is that, or what's going on there? Once again, I do not want to turn this into another newsletter just for council members, but even we're talking about a simple email, perhaps with 4 lines, bullet points. By the way, you may want to show up at this dedication or whatever. So I would just throw that out there. I think it would really be, it would be helpful to me, and I don't know about the other members, how they feel about this, but it would be nice to be sure we show up at these things and we show our support and we're engaged. So anyway.
Okay.
Absolutely. The Madison Baird Memorial this was lovely. It was, you know, they had a good showing. It's a great bench, and I don't know if you saw her artwork there. It was very lovely. And then we have the Blue Zones event Sunday night. Yeah. And it was so much fun. We had hundreds out there, and it was just a lot of fun watching the kids run around and parents on their blankets eating from the taco truck and all the, so
and it may just be myself that I'm missing out on a couple of those, but I think once again, just a quick short summary, you know, just one sentence, you know, this is and maybe emails out bi-weekly or weekly, and especially for new council members and whatnot, just to get them, you know, anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea.
I would like that as an employee as well.
That's a great point. Yes, right.
Yeah. Lisa?
As long as it's not replied to, please. One-way communication.
And that's for?
Open Public Meetings Act.
Right, okay. So you can tell us there's the circus has come to town, but we just can't all say we're going to be at the circus, right?
Yeah.
If you are, I need to know.
That's right.
Well, and this is I don't know if we have an events calendar on our website or.
Yeah, we do. I update that every month. It's up there.
So that might be something I could review.
Yeah, I mean, as things start to open up, I hope, things like where various staff members are being honored, those were things that I used to go to. I used to be able to interact with staff members more, so would kind of learn about it that way. But those are things that we all should want to go to. And so I know that that's coordinating a lot of different departments and schedules, but I agree with Lauren, you know, when we're there and in the know, I'm not always following every other channel to know where things are advertised.
Well, Lisa, just so I understand this, I'm sorry. I mean, I should know the answer to this. And I apologize. But the fact that you put out an email to council members that there's a farmer's market, don't forget, we do not need to respond.
Right. I'm just cautioning you that you shouldn't respond, because that is potentially, if you're responding and it goes multiple council members, then it can end up being a violation of the Open Public Meetings Act.
Okay.
So
But there's nothing wrong with saying we're dedicating a park at 5 p.m. Sunday afternoon. Yeah. And once again, I do not want to make this onerous. You know, this is something where, like I said, there could be weeks nothing. There could be weeks when there's 5 things. You know, but I'm finding that I'm missing out on a lot of these because I'm not reading all the attached documents. Yeah. Anyway.
We used to have like every council meeting, we got like a little update of upcoming events and things that were likely to be on the agenda in the future. And then it kind of moved to the administrative content, but this particular meeting on the agenda on board docs, I can't find, there's administrative content or the council reference materials, but there aren't any actual documents in there, as far as I can tell, even though I'm logged in.
Jerry?
Seems like I've seen some of these things announced on our digital sign there by City Hall. And let's add a little digital display going around those bird scooters. That'll get it around town.
Yeah, I'm at a point here where I will send an email the other direction saying, is there anything going to happen this week? You know, I guess I'm at that point. So yeah, anyway, yeah.
That would be great. All right. Any other discussion? Any other items? All right. Seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Councilmember Selby, so move.
Second.
Was there a second?
Second, Councilmember Jerry.
All right. If there's no objection, the meeting is adjourned at 8:13 p.m. Thanks.